What's up, family? What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm so excited. Okay, first of all, round of applause for me. Because I was supposed to be doing this a long time ago. And it's been a minute, and I've been sitting with this vision for a while. And I've been waiting for the perfect time, the perfect opportunity. And it's now here. It's finally here. And I'm finally at a space of stepping into beginning this series, and there's a lot of really exciting things coming up for it. We're just going to start here light on IG, then we're going to take it to Discord a little bit later, but there's some really exciting things coming up with this series in 2024, but we're going to start here for now, and we're going to ease our way into the magic because I like to take my time with things, but I am super excited to be finally jumping into this series. I have 6 episodes coming up for y'all over the course of the next 6 weeks with some powerful, dynamic ass individuals who I have had the opportunity of connecting with on such a deep philosophical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, conscious, all the different vibes level, on a personal level, of friends, of people that I connect with and have these conversations with off of the camera. And now we get to bring those conversations that we have normally, our everyday conversations, every time we link, every time we talk, to y'all. And if you guys have been following me for a minute, you know the talk that I like to talk. You know the vibe that I like to vibe, and you know the messages that I like to carry. And it's that of consciousness, it's that of love, it's that of community, it's that of healing, it's that of living, it's that of being human being. And today we're going to be diving into Beyond Spirituality, the Odyssey of I Am. And I'm super, super, super excited to be bringing on Skyra, who actually was a big key factor in me really finally pulling the trigger and saying, you know what, I can do this, and I'm ready to do this. So without further ado, I see he keeps requesting conversations. Skyra don't make live appearances often, or if ever. So this is also going to be a super dope dynamic combo. What's up, family?
Hey, hey, hey.
Let me see. Let me fix. Let
Let
me
me
let me turn you up a little bit.
and
Okay.
I'm gonna throw my headphones on so this should make it a little better.
Okay. Dope. Ooh, I'm so excited. Turn up, turn
Alrighty.
up, turn up. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello and welcome to Sacred Conversations.
We're finally
Oh, it's gonna be
here. We are here.
juicy. It's gonna be juicy. So just pre-rec for listening into this dialogue. If this is the episode you choose to watch, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get into some shit. I'm pretty sure we're gonna stir some tables, stir some ideologies, stir some concepts, challenge some societal norms. We might trigger you just a little bit, but the triggering's for healing. The triggering is for healing. So just ride with us, rock with us. Our intentions are pure. And if you can listen, listen. And if you don't catch it now, you'll catch it later if you keep listening. So just dive all the way into this conversation with us today. I'm super, super, super excited. So before we dive in, I'm going to read what the description of this dialogue and this conversation is. But first, before we do that, Skyra, I would love for you to just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, who you be,
I
however you
will
want to
keep
end
it.
that conversation.
Yeah, I'll
Yep.
keep it short. My name is Sky Ra. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an author, and I'm a cosmic consultant. And I
Mm.
am here to play the game that you don't know you're playing. That's it.
Okay.
You'll learn
Okay.
so much more
Fire.
about me as I talk. So, yeah.
Fire. We're going to definitely dive and get into that. For those that don't know, my name is Destiny Muse. I'm a multifaceted creator. I just love to create. I love to take whatever is in my mind, the God given inspirations that come into my consciousness. I like to bring those things to life in whatever creative avenue that I can do so, specifically in marketing, media, creative design, graphic design work, but also gathering of community. I love to be the one that can pull in tribe and can gather people around a message, a narrative, and I am just here to be fucking human. I'm here to be human because that's what I signed up for in this lifetime. And so
Man.
as I navigate the waves of being human, I show up full. in who I am every single time with purpose and on purpose. And so without further ado, we're going to dive right into this conversation, but I'm going to go ahead and read the description for y'all because tonight's going to get a little bit unusual, just a little bit. So today we have Beyond Spirituality, the Odyssey of I Am. This episode challenges the often superficial narratives that permeate the spiritual community, urging seekers to pierce beyond constructs, labels, and preconceived notions. This episode is an intimate discourse on the profound power of the self, a deep dive into the omnipotent resonance of I am. So that is an absolute mouthful. Skyra, what does any of this shit mean to you?
So before we kind of get into that, which we are getting into about this next action, I would love to read the last chapter of What Is I? And it's just one page, very short. Okay?
Yes.
Because I think this will set the tone. The last chapter of What Is I is called Beyond. In the ceaseless exploration is an absolute beyondness, unspeakable, ineffable. Though we've written a book acting as a map, we can't tell you where the map leads. This is just where it begins. We can only tell you that the map is not the territory. The waterways of the map start at nothing and branch into rivers going everywhere. Only by journeying into the deepest waters can you investigate the mystery of your personal existence. Start with the question, what is I? This beyond will forever be personal to each individual. Beyond meaning the unknown. Pure beyondness is pure freedom, no limits, no bounds, pure potential, pure creativity, pure play. So, what I feel this all means is most of us don't know who we are. We're walking around in skin suits, making decisions, choices blindly. I think that it is so valuable to understand what I is. So when someone asks you what your name is and you say, hi, my name is, or I am Destiny. The first question I ask is, well, who is my and who is I? Who is the one speaking, saying that she's Destiny? And that point right there is why we're here today. Honestly. I think that spirituality, because let's get right into it, for me, has led me down. And I'm not going to say that spirituality is all bad because it's not.
Yeah.
Spirituality is a pathway. So let me make that very clear. Spirituality is a pathway like Christianity is a pathway, like Islam is a pathway, like Judaism is a pathway. And the problem is that we get caught up in pathways and not rooted in the one who's on the path. And so I feel I'll kind of land the plane there and let you continue. But we're here because, I is not talked about enough and it's too much we and me in this community. And there's a game being played that you're not playing.
Ashe, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I love the point that you made about the different pathways that we walk,
Yes.
the different pathways that we are on, but really tapping into the inner working of who is on the path, who is in said path. And a little bit more about my story, I have explored several paths. I've gone down the path of Christianity, deeply devoted, brought and born into that path. Followed that path,
Same.
chose that path myself for a very long time. I've journeyed down the path of atheism, dove into that more so relying on science and data as my pathway to understanding. That one was interesting because as I explored atheism, I was like using atheism as a way to validate my disbelief. So there was never actually a disbelief. Atheism was my way to invalidate my constant search of trying to find proof to validate my disbelief in God. At that crossroad, at that moment, then I went back to Christianity after diving into atheism and realizing that the more answers that I discovered, it just kept leading me back to an omnipresence, something that was greater than non-belief. And then I went back to Christianity, but went back as an observer instead of a participant, studied the environment, didn't acclimate, but fed in, went unseen, unnoticed within the situation, but was observing it from an observer. Then dove into spirituality. Then after diving into spirituality, ascended into a space of I am, which is something that exists beyond the labels, something that has taken and finds resonance in each and every single one of them, including atheism, led me to this space of I am, which I realized that I exist beyond any labels, any constructs. And there's this place that I feel is untouchable, and it is not easily definable. It is extremely personal. But once you find it, once you unlock it, it is yours, and no one can take it away from you.
No, it sounds like you're explaining or describing what God is. It sounds like you were source, individualized into a body, playing with different facets of itself to learn more about itself. That is how, and that is why you're able to go beyond spirituality. Now, we were taught that spirituality was the pathway, was like the pathway to God. You were God before you started. You were God. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, take it.
I was just going to say, like, you were God when you were born. You were God when you were eating those Doritos. You were God when you was in the strip club. You was God when you was in the brothel or the hostel, getting down, doing your thing. And you are God watching this right now. And that is what's going to upset people, because people are trying to sell you the pathway to you, which makes no sense. Makes no sense. But I will say this, because I want this to sound simple, but not complex. There is a pathway that you have to take to get to this mindset. And this mindset is what I call a fifth dimensional mindset. And if I could briefly just kind of go into the differences between the third, fourth, and fifth dimension.
Absolutely.
Very briefly. And again, of Earth is all about the simplicity of source, the simplicity of God, and breaking it down so the average person can get it. The third dimension, we all know, born in the third dimension, you don't know much about life. You know what's in front of you. You know what's been taught to you. The religion that's been taught to you, what your mom says, what your brother says, what your father says. Okay.
Yes.
So we don't have to go deep into the third. Now, the fourth dimension is where it gets tricky, because people say that the fourth dimension is time. All right. The fourth dimension is time. But what I like to say the fourth dimension is the internet. So on the internet, so you go from being in the third dimensional space and then going on to this other space where you create this reality. And in this reality, there's no time. So it's like on the internet, I can go all the way back to whatever year. And then seemingly the future is also on the internet. And you're creating this avatar, this personality, as you can see every day on social media. Who you are on Instagram, a lot of people, that ain't who you is in real life. That's not to diss you. It's just to say that this is a different dimensional. This is a different dimension of space and time. And it's a different dimension of consciousness. Now, the fifth dimension is being able to understand those two and move accordingly. The fifth dimension, like Bashar, he gave this example of reality being like a mirror. And, when you go to a mirror, you don't expect the reflection to do anything. You don't expect it to smile first. In order for the reflection to smile, you have to smile first. And then it smiles back. So all we're talking about is you knowingly creating your reality and not living in a reality that is created for
For
you.
you.
And now I say that, and a lot of people may utter that, but do you understand that? And are you actually doing it? Because as much as we love open world video games, we're living in one. So when you're on this Grand Theft Auto or whatever these games are, you pick this character and you literally can do anything. So that's literally what I'm trying to say here. The fifth dimensional mindset is the understanding that you literally can do anything. But most people who live in the fifth dimensional mindset have a certain level of responsibility. Not everyone though, because good and bad is always going to be, because that is the concoction of this
Of this
reality.
reality.
Yep.
I'll say.
I want to keep going. So we got to go tit for tat. So I'm gonna let you go
No,
ahead.
that was good, and I'm following,
Mm-hmm.
and I am following. It's such an interesting concept that a big part of this journey for me has really been that of awareness, self-awareness, objective observation, and awareness of what is, just observing what is, understanding what is from different angles and different ways of looking at it. And then after taking and being able to observe the different aspects of what is, being able to participate in this reality, in this experience as the observer and the creator at the same time. So being able to analyze and assess. There's a book, it's over in front, but there's a book I'm reading right now by Don Miguel called The Mastery of Self.
Okay.
And so in The Mastery of Self, he talks about how it's very similar to the concept and idea of playing a game, right? Playing the game. He calls it the dream. So we all live in the dream, and we have our individual dreams that we're dreaming on an individual level. Then we have the collective dream that we are dreaming collectively. And so through observation, when you can understand the collective dream, how that operates, how my dream and your dream come together to create another dream, and how that other dream comes together to live within the larger collective dream. Once you can begin to look through a lens of observation where you see all of the different aspects of those things playing together, you have so much more control of the dream that you're dreaming. And so you're able to enter into the dream world from a space of I, not from a space of we. But as you enter into the dream world from I call it the first person perspective, is how I started to live. Before, I lived outwardly, inwardly. So I observed my external reality and used my external reality as a mirror to understand my internal reality. But then once I switched and pivot to the space of I, the space of I am, I began to observe my reality from the inner to the outer. So now I'm seeing the world through my eyes and not receiving the perception of reality from what is happening outside of me.
Yes. I have a note here. You don't have to change your world. You have to shift to a world that is representative of the change that you experience or want to experience. Seeing, and we're going to keep coming back to the same thing, and that's what God is. Very secular, right?
Yeah.
Let me see this right. This observer that you're speaking of, again, is we're doing the best we can to see reality from the space of source. And when you step into I, because I is all, reality becomes, I feel like you're able to manipulate it more. And I just had a conversation with somebody about this word manipulate, because as I grew up, I was always told that it was kind of like a negative connotation.
Yep.
You know, you don't want to manipulate people or manipulate things, but reality is being manipulated every day, all the time.
Yeah.
And if you're not manipulating your reality, then someone is manipulating yours.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't, there's a guy named Theo Vaughn, the white guy, the podcaster. He just talked about, feeling like, he's living other people's choices.
Mm,
When are you going to decide? Because life is based off of the choices that you make. And I don't
yeah.
know how much more or how simple this can get. What you are experiencing is due to you and the choices that you are making. I think that what happened with Christianity was, and even spirituality was, you start to depend on other people for your decision making. So you start
Mm-hmm.
to create these gods. So it went from Jesus to Deepak Chopra. You get what I'm saying? Like you were there's always something to depend on,
Yeah.
but there's nothing to depend on. It's
Yeah.
only you. It's
Yeah.
only you,
Yeah.
and it's only you in contrast.
Yeah.
Contrast is so important. I'm gonna tell you why. Because the North Star of our realm is called Polaris. Polarity. You won't escape polarity. In fact, you must embrace
Yeah.
polarity
Yeah.
to actually understand this game.
Yeah.
This is a game that is being
Yeah.
played, and contrast and polarity is the name of the game.
Mm.
Spirituality made me feel like I can only be positive.
Yeah.
If something is negative, then it's not for me.
Yeah.
And again, what are these rules? Again, this is another religion that's coming about
Yeah.
because you haven't realized that you are source in a body and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So the observer mindset and perspective is the only mindset that we should have.
Mm-hmm.
JMO just said, take a dip
Take a
into the
dip in
dark
the
side.
dark side. As
You
long as you
got
know you
to.
dipping, baby. As long as you know you are
Ooh.
dipping. It's when you are unaware of the fact that you are in the
Listen.
darkness. Is when you begin to become controlled by said darkness because you don't know that you're in it. And I say it
Yes.
all the time, like I'm willing to play in the dark because I know that I am playing in the dark.
Mm.
And when I know that I am playing in the dark, I'm not being controlled by the dark. I am a conscious participator within that realm. And then I also know when to pull out. I know when enough has been enough. Let me walk away now because I don't want it to get too messy because I've experienced what it's like to be in the darkness unconsciously and the
Yes.
consequences of playing in the dark
Yes.
unconsciously and the negative impacts and effects that it has in my life. And the only reason why I was able to even understand that was through awareness and also accountability. But because
Yes.
I operate from a space of profound awareness and deep accountability, which brings me to a concept within spirituality that I wrestled with, and I understand it, I like the basis, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts and see where we take
What's that?
the deconstruction of this idea.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of like, I got really caught up in the spiritual game of like, in the spiritual community, it's said often like you attract what you are, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this concept of if the only reason that you may be attracting darkness or negative experiences or negative people is because there's a sense of negativity inside of you
Mm-hmm.
that's reflecting externally. And so what that caused for me is an imbalance in accountability because I was so self-accountable. I was now taking full responsibility for not only my actions but the actions of individuals that exist outside of me and outside of my fucking control
Mm-hmm.
that were showing up in my reality for tons of different reasons. People were showing up in my reality and they saw me as prey because they were able to study and because I was unconsciously aware. So I was participating in their game unknowingly,
Mm-hmm.
but they were not always a direct reflection of me. So I had to learn how to see where I begin and where I end and
Mm-hmm.
where someone else begins
Yeah.
and knowing how to separate that. But when I was super caught up in Christianity, there were still things happening to me outside of me getting caught up in like external situations that were with people who were manipulating my emotional body. Were manipulating. I was being manipulated because I
Mm-hmm.
was not coming from a space of consciousness, but I kept taking on the full self blame as it was I had misunderstood the reason why it was my fault. I assumed that the reason it was my fault was because I was like them. That wasn't what I learned. Was the reason why it was my fault was not because I was like them. It's because I was not consciously aware, number one, of what was happening to me, and then number two, I was making decisions to entertain. It was choices. It came back down to choices.
Yep.
I was making decisions and choices to entertain. I had heard a quote from some podcast, and it was talking about as light, right? Which I believe we're both lightness. We're both light and darkness. But let's just go into the spiritual community jargon for a second. As light, you attract both light and darkness, but your responsibility comes with what you choose to entertain. Yes. And so it all comes back down to choice of what am I choosing to entertain, and then being responsible for what you choose to entertain. Like, it's on you at that point. There's no one else to blame at that point.
We love to take responsibility for the wins in life. You know, I attracted that. Look what I manifested. It's so great. You know, I just found this or whatever. Okay. But then, so you're going to blame somebody else for the other shit?
Yep.
You know, enlightenment is fleeting. Awareness is bliss. And it is when, like you said, you're not aware, you can be played. You're coming from a perspective that you don't know what's happening around you. So if that's what's happening, then people can just place ideas, things around you, and you just gonna play with it because there's no awareness. What I would say about attracting people in certain times and whatnot, you know, it's not that, okay, I attracted this person and now I'm just negative. Everybody has so many different facets to them. And then everything is moment by moment. Every second is a second or a chance to restart. And let me say that one more time because somebody need to hear that one.
Yeah.
Every second is the opportunity that you have to restart. You are not in this rut, and then you know you got to go to church and repent, or you got to go to the priest and you know repent your sins and all of that. Right now, you can say, you know what? I'm a new person. That's powerful. That is internal power. That's power. To be able to know that at any moment you can be something else is powerful. But yeah, you know, sometimes we attract people and in different seasons and then we change. And now we're looking at this situation or person like, damn, like, well, why? Because now it comes to the choice of continuing to entertain because you felt guilty. So now it's like, well, you know,
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. But you know, how attraction works for sure. Yeah. You know, whoever you see in front of you definitely has something to relate to you. You have resonance. We are on this call because we have a certain level of resonance and we are on a certain frequency that we're able to, but I can get off this and take a shot of Casamigos. And now I'm so another wavelength. And again, you know, and I won't go too deep, but it's like, we really also have to understand how the reality actually functions. What are the rules and regulations of this reality? How does parallel realities work? Do you know that every moment or every second that I just picked up this cup, but then there's a reality that I didn't pick up the cup. And it's so close to this one. And you are able to shift into these different realities so easily. And what I'm really trying to do is give you power over you. It's not the devil's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not they's fault. Everything that happens to you is your fault. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Following you. I feel like that narrative, that's part of the narrative that I was leading at earlier. My slight disagreements.
Go ahead.
Now, I believe as adults, we have choices. But what I do believe is that a lot of us unknowingly as children, were placed into these environments where we did not have a choice. Our survival, in order to survive, we were being controlled and manipulated by our caregivers. And so we had to adapt to a certain reality because we had to survive. Some of us weren't safe to be of ourselves. And so the choices that we had to make were for our basic survival, right? Now, at some point in all of our lives, we are responsible for change.
Yes.
We are responsible for assuming responsibility. And so that's where I agree with the concept of like, it is your fault. So I like to say what happened to you wasn't your fault, but how you choose to continue forward is. But it is a lot of people though, don't even have the conscious awareness of what was even done to them in order to take back the power over their own reality and to begin to create for themselves. I always talk about this concept of belief and how we all believe something, right? Most people have subscribed to a belief that was given to them.
Yes.
They believe something that somebody outside of them has told them to believe. Most people need someone else to believe for them before they can believe for themselves. Yes. And so I feel like majority of people who are not operating from a space of accountability and conscious awareness are so far removed from themselves that the first step is realizing where you're at, realizing the conditioning that you're living with. And sometimes that conditioning isn't your fault. Sometimes that conditioning was because of your upbringing, the environment that you grew up in. It happened to you at no fault of your own. But once you come to the conscious awareness of what that thing is, at that point, you cannot claim ignorance. And I feel like every person has an opportunity at some point of time,
yes.
whether that's through a relationship, whether that's through a friend coming in and saying something to you, whether that's through an independent experience that you had for yourself and you saw the consequences of continuing to act and operate from that state of belief. I believe everyone has an opportunity to choose at some point in time in their lives. But I do believe that some things that happened to us might not have necessarily been our faults. We're not to blame for what happened to us. It's kind of my stance on that.
I want to say that I completely agree. And let me go deeper into it. When we were born, we were perfect. When we were born, we knew everything. Now, the reason why we're on this call is and the reason why we're in this space and time of reality is so more people and parents can raise children without corruption.
Yes.
So I was born, in Baltimore, Maryland. And so what comes with that is already, you hear Baltimore, oh, shit. All right. Yeah, exactly. So that is what, when I'm 5, I'm 6, girls is like this, boys is like this. And, when you get a girl like this, then you got to do this. And, when you see this is how you act. When you see the police. So as I'm living through life, ideas are being put on me, concepts that I had I'm a baby. I'm an infant. I'm a toddler. I'm a preteen, whatever. And then we go and live as adults with these concepts. But have you ever stopped to think, is what I'm thinking right now and who I am, who I decided to be? Or is this who my uncle decided for me to be?
Yes.
My mother decided for me to be.
Yes.
And you're right. It comes a time in everybody's life where you have to have, you will have that moment.
Yep.
For me, it was mushrooms. So, and it was overnight. So I'm not the one that's going to tell you, I was always spiritual. And I always had it in me. Fuck no. I was asleep. I was eating Twinkies and oatmeal pies and doing dumb shit just like everybody fucking else. And mind you, I loved it. I loved it. And I would go back and do it again. But also, I would also come back and do this. Why? Because what happened with me is, very short, I went to a party one night, got some girl's number, and with all intentions to do the damn thing. So the next day, I did mushrooms. Now, I didn't really know what mushrooms was. I just did it. And something came over me. And I realized, like, wait, I don't have to call this girl and try to have sex. We could talk. And blew my mind. I'm like,
Damn.
and what really happened was what cracked was the shell that was created for me. I was told and I was taught, shit, if you see one and yeah, then you call and you do the date. And when I when I told her that I'm on the phone with her on mushrooms and I'm telling her like what's going on and like what I'm thinking, and it just blew her mind. She's like, tell me more. And I'm sure obviously I was very, very different in this moment, but I'm saying that to say like whether it's mushrooms, whether it's, a near death
Yeah.
experience, like you said, whether it's your friend coming in and saying, yo, read this book or whatever,
Yeah.
you will have the opportunity to decide between awareness and non-awareness.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think that what allowed me to take those mushrooms is having an open mind. As I like
Yeah.
to say, the open mind is the playground.
Mm.
And you have to know that you're on the playground, at least consider the fact that this could be a playground and keep an open mind and not feel like you know everything. How could you know everything? How
Yep.
could you actually feel like, you know what? I got it.
Yep.
Never. When I was
Never.
15, I thought I knew everything. All right.
That
Then when I
part.
was 18, I was like, I got this shit.
Yeah.
No. Then when I was 25, I was like, okay, nah, 18, that wasn't it. Now I'm 32 and I truly know know nothing, but
Literally.
I know enough to know that I don't know
No,
anything.
anything.
And
Yeah. The
that
quote
is
I
important.
always say is, I know what I know.
Hmm.
I know what I don't
Hmm.
know. And I'm always open to being wrong. I live
Please.
by that.
And that's
I
for
know
all
what I know.
that's for all humans, no matter race or
Yeah.
gender, whether woman or man,
Yeah.
like because it's it's just like they try to put it on whether woman or it's like no, like we all need to be mature.
Yeah.
All of us. We all have to mature and understand that there's so much more to know. And then when you get there, awareness is right around the corner.
Yeah. And
Right around
consciousness.
the
And the
corner.
beautiful thing about this journey is, like, once you make the conscious choice to begin, the conscious choice to step onto the path, there's no forgetting. You can't unsee it. It's actually torture to try
Hmm.
and not remember, to try and unforget. It will be more painful for you to stay the same than to continue forward on the path, which is also painful, but it's not as
Hmm.
painful as staying the same once you make the choice to progress forward. And you can try to deny it. Once you make that conscious decision to progress forward and you see for the very first time, you can spend the rest of your life denying it, absolutely, but you will be spending the rest of your life denying it.
Denying it.
And
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
what, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do that?
People, the mind, is an
It
instrument that
is.
wants to run loops and stay the same. Now, that could be for our benefit. A lot of times it is because it allows us to remember things. It allows us to process things that we learned before. But also, the mind doesn't want to change. And you have to realize that you're not your mind.
Yeah.
The mind, the brain, is an instrument that I are using. So when
Yes.
people say, like, my thoughts are not your thoughts,
Yeah.
let me break it down to you. Because again, you have to understand how this reality works. Thoughts run on a string.
Yeah.
So this imagine right now, I'm sitting here. There's streams that's coming through just like this,
Yeah.
constantly like radio waves. Because I'm on the frequency that I'm tuned to, these are the kinds of thoughts that
Thoughts
come to
I have.
me. So
Yes.
now when you tune to your radio station, saying you, whoever's listening, you get your kind of thoughts. And the easiest way to see this is with alcohol. Simple. We cooling, we chilling, we not drinking, all kinds of cool thoughts, whatever, we're having fun. Then you start drinking and you just have all these different kinds of thoughts. A better way to even see it is between happiness and sadness.
Yeah.
When I'm happy with my mom, oh, I love my mother. She's so amazing. The woman that birthed me, she brought me into this world. And then I got an attitude, man, I swear to God, my motherfucking mother, like, how
Right.
can those two perspectives come from one
Yeah.
person. Are you saying that you are both those people? Or is it that in one space you were in a different frequency, so different thoughts came to you and you put them out of your mouth, your
Mm,
speaker. So you're like a radio. You're like a radio. On
mm,
92.3, you hear rap. On 94.7, you hear easy listening. When you're
mm.
happy, you hear happy thoughts. When you're sad, you have sad thoughts. When you're angry, you have angry thoughts. This may sound simple, but
Yeah.
a
It's
lot of
not.
people not getting it
Yeah.
because then they'll get into sadness and don't realize it's sadness, and then now it's leading to depression,
Yeah.
and then that leads
Yeah.
to suicide just because somebody didn't understand frequency.
Yeah.
This is we got to understand how this reality works. We're
Yeah.
not just here living, working a job. No, it's more to this, and this is what is beyond spirituality. Because
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that within spirituality, you feel like there's a cap. It's like I made it, I got it.
And
Yeah.
that's when you bust through.
Yes.
And well, there's a
Mm-hmm.
phase that happens at that point where you think you figured it out.
Yes.
Then you are hit with at least for me in my
Mm-hmm.
experience, then I was hit with a harsh reality that had to humble me. So I reached this because I reached what was the top, right, of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I made it. I arrived. I'm spiritually awakened. I have all the answers. I'm in tune with self, with oneself. All of the things when you think that you have just become
Mm-hmm.
all things and everything at the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Yes.
Then I got hit with the harsh reality that then humbled me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I feel as though I've truly stepped into the I am, where I got, and it happened a few times, right? So there was a few different phases of that where I put in the work. I reached a certain step of a certain stage of consciousness, of awareness, of spiritual awakening, of attuneness, whatever we want to call it. Then I got to that wall. I'm like, ooh, I arrived. Something hit me. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I know nothing. Then I did it again. I'm like, ooh, this is it. Then I hit another, like, oh, fuck, I know nothing. Then I did it again. And I was like, I'm not doing that shit again. I don't know nothing. I'm going to leave it there. I'm gonna leave it
Yeah.
at that. I'm gonna stick with what I know that I know that I know that I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also unattached to what I believe that I know because I know that that shit can always change because I have
Yes.
enough data. I've lived through enough experiences consciously to see that even in a state of consciousness, you know nothing. Even in a state of knowing, you know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have gotten to a space in a stage where I'm playing. This is all a fucking game to me. And I try to explain it to people, and people think I'm crazy. And I'm like, what? Who cares? You know what's funny? So I have a tattoo on my middle finger that says "Who cares?"
Mm-hmm.
But I got it. I know I got it when I was like 25, and it was for a completely different reason.
I'm sure.
Yeah, on my middle finger,
Right,
it was a
right.
whole nother vibe
Uh-huh.
of shit that was going
Uh-huh.
on at that
Uh-huh.
time in my life. But I keep coming back to it. I
Mm.
keep coming back to it in this season of my life. I was like, ooh, I can't even want to get it touched up because it's like faded. You can barely see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm back in that space of who cares? Like
Yes.
being and living in my reality, in my perception of things, while also being able to be objectively observant, where I'm like, and I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from. I get it. And sometimes I get it more than you fucking get it. But that ain't none of my business.
Hey, the fifth dimension in God is the balance of who cares and I care so much.
Oh, and I care so
I
much.
care so
I care
much.
so fucking much. It's painful.
But
I
also,
care so
but
much.
also, who gives a fuck?
But also,
Oh
who
my
gives a
God.
fuck?
And to somebody that might seem schizophrenic. I don't know.
Right.
But to me, that is God.
Oh.
You have to be completely participative in this reality while simultaneously being absolutely removed.
Remove.
And
You have to, because that
mhm,
you're here.
yes,
We're here.
yes.
We're
That's
here. That was so. I have
mhm,
a brand called Human Being, which is it's shape shifted. It's still morphing and shape shifting, but where I'm landing at is it's going to be the platform that documents human existence, what it means to be human. And it was something that was birthed when I was deep within the spiritual community, right? When I was deep into that, I kept coming back to, but I'm human. There's a quote that I just started saying it all the time, where in the spiritual community, they say often, I'm a human being having a spiritual experience. And then I'm also a spiritual being having a human experience. I have time to be in my spiritual body. I have time to be in that existence. But right now, today,
Boy,
I'm human. And
thank
I
you.
want to feel what it feels like to be fucking human. I want to feel all the things. I want to experience all the things, which is why I always told people, I'm like, I have, even with sadness, I have such a special relationship, even with the most grunge and heavy and difficult emotions. I want to feel them. I want
Yes.
to experience them. I want to just be wrapped in what it means to be a fucking human being. I'm a human. Today, I'm a human. I'm a human. I'm a human. I'm a human. And so,
I
really coming into what it means to be human. I get it.
yes.
We're all tapped in. We're all spiritual. God, I get it. 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 But we have lifetimes. We have an infinite. There's so much infinite space and time to experience what it means to be spirit. But right now, we get to be human. And being human is so fucking fun
This
when you
is a,
unlock the code.
it's
Oh,
special. It's
oh,
special. A lot of people, especially when I was really deep in the path, everybody wanted to be from another planet. And this is actually why I created Of Earth. But everybody wanted to be Pleiadian. Everybody is Arcturian.
yeah.
When will I go back to the planet I'm no. How what you're saying literally doesn't even make sense because you're sitting here in front of me. So you're not Pleiadian as much as you want to say. I don't give a fuck what happened in these past lifetimes, where your soul's from. Cool story, bro.
Right.
But I came here, as I always used to say, I came here to feel the wind on my
Yeah.
cheeks when I'm on the roller coaster going 40 miles per hour, screaming at the top of my lungs. You can't
Yeah.
do that as a spirit.
Spirit.
You can't make love in the physical as a
Yeah.
spirit. Like you said, I love really, I actually love crying on movies. My
Yeah.
father was a big movie crier. I remember we went to the movies and we went to go see King Kong.
Hmm.
This nigga is crying at the end. So I'm like, yo, like, I'm like, Dad, like, why are you crying? Like, he's like, you ain't seen when King Kong died? And I'm like, yeah, but it's a movie. But he was like, but still, like, I felt that. And years and years later, rest in peace to my dad. But I really get that. Like, the tears falling is a part of being human. This is spiritual. This is spirit.
Yeah.
This is it. To eat,
Yeah.
to eat food. Oh my
Oh,
God. Do
I
you know how
love
good
food.
food is?
I love food. I love eating. I'm so mad because I can't eat that much because I got little ass stomach. But I love eating. I love the way food tastes. I wish I could have more room. I love food.
Yes, food and just I'm looking at this computer here. It's such a cool thing in front of me.
Yeah.
Like
You know what?
we,
You know what I've said about like grief and sorrow.
mhm,
When I was grieving like the loss of my
mhm,
brother, like deep grief, the loss of love. I was like, grief shows me how much I loved. Grief shows
mhm.
me how capable I am of loving something. And so I can't say that I want to love something deeply and then be like, oh, but keep the grief when it's time
Yeah.
to let go. Because at some point, it's going to be time to let go, whether that's in death.
Hmm.
If you maybe I get to keep it for this lifetime. Maybe I
Hmm.
get to keep it till the day that I die. But either
Maybe.
I lose it, maybe.
Hmm.
But why? How can I say that I want love? I want to experience the most profound depths of love, but say no, but keep the grief. No, I grieve the loss of love with honor and with pride because I love real, I love raw, I love
Hmm.
truth. My love is real. And so if the love ends, if I have to let the love go, I grieve that with honor.
Yes.
To say, you know what, I love so much and it does hurt me to let this go. I
Yeah.
deserve that. I deserve to experience that. But we like
Yes.
to only, because of spiritual community and just the concept of love and light. No, I always say love, light, and purifying fire to
Mm.
clear your path. We
Mm.
need it all. All of it. All of it is necessary. All of it is a part of divine order. The good, quote unquote, the bad, quote unquote, light, dark, shadow, all of it. All of it is what makes this experience, the fullness of it. Give it to me. Give it all to me. Give it all
There's
to me.
there's no good or bad. And I'm
No.
gonna try to remember this short story very briefly. I mean, clearly, but I think it was Alan Watts, and he's like, the farmer had a son, and the son, I think he broke his leg, and then the neighbors came and said, "Oh, that's too bad," and the farmer said, "Maybe."
I've heard
Then,
the story. Yes,
then,
it's
and
twisted.
I'm giving the very short version, and then the next week, the army enlistment officer comes, and the son didn't have to go to the army because he broke his leg. And then the neighbor said, "Well, that's so good," and he said, "Maybe." Ended there because there was one part of it I missed, but the point is that you know you have to define what these moments mean to you.
Yeah.
Life is meaningless.
Mm,
Life is like a blank sheet of paper,
yeah.
and as an artist, as a human, it's up to you to paint your picture. Like
Yeah.
as you said, when we were born, people were painting our picture for us. We
Yeah.
didn't get to use the brush strokes. We didn't get to pick up the pencil and say, okay, I'm going to be this. I mean, yeah, you said you wanted to be a doctor. Who didn't say that? Yeah, you want to be a
Exactly.
fucking astronaut. That's also programming.
Right.
But nobody grows up and says, man, I want to be a rock climber. Where's
Right.
that? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, but life really is meaningless. And when you choose to give it meaning, is when you are the creator.
Yeah.
This is the era of the creator. This is where if you're not creating, it's being created for you.
Yeah.
And peace be unto you. But
Yeah.
we're here to say that this is a game. Allow things to happen and feel them, and but
Yeah.
also know that they will happen. When my father was about to die, I tell everybody this story. I knew he was because he was just in the hospital for a long time. They telling me this, that, and the third, and then there was a point where they actually had to bring him back. So I'm like, okay, well, I was working a job. I literally went into the bathroom and said, okay, I am now going to cry. I
Mm,
like with full awareness knew what I was doing. I said, I need to get this out
yeah.
because it's coming. And
Yeah.
so it just started flooding. My supervisor texted me,
Yeah.
"Hey, where you at? Where you at?" I'm like, "I'm coming. I'm using the bathroom," and I'm just crying. And a week later, he passed, but I was able to go back into that memorial, and I literally, like, I spoke at his funeral, and I was literally cracking jokes.
Yeah.
Nobody I don't know anybody. I've never been to a funeral where they're literally throughout the whole sermon just cracking jokes about this person. I
Yeah.
did that. I was able to do that. One, because I know that's what my father would have wanted. But then
Yeah.
two, because I had already released that pain.
That,
Of
yeah.
course I teared up at the moment. Of course I cried. But it wasn't oh my God. No, I can't even do my speech now. Sorry guys, because I'm just
Yeah.
dealing with this death. Yes, I dealt with it responsibly with awareness.
Yes.
And even death needs to be handled with awareness. As
Yes.
crazy as
I love
that
that.
sounds.
Yeah. No, I love that so much, and I was chuckling and laughing because I literally same will schedule cries. I'll be like,
Wow.
okay, it's about time. Like I'm like, and because I can feel it because I'm
Uh,
also like really so emotions, the study of emotions, emotional intelligence. That's both a natural innate ability that I was definitely blessed and
mm,
graced with, like God willing. But
yes.
also, it's a field of study too. So it was something that was innate. But I also went to school. Also, was educated. Also like got my degree in like psychology and specifically emotional
Mm-hmm.
intelligence, and have taken, like, I took it deeper than the innate study that I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really aware of my emotional body. I operate from a space of um deep emotional space, but I'm not controlled by my emotions. I have uh, a very unique understanding of the emotional body. And so I can feel in my body when it's time to release something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll literally be like, okay, it's time for a cry. Like, it's time to process this. And because I'm also intellectual and I'm also aware and I also operate from a space of objective reality, I'm able to not only process things through my mental, but also my emotional body through a 5-minute fucking meditation. I just sit, and it's not a meditation of zen and empty. I meditate through thought and feeling simultaneously, where I look at the situation, I'm like, I feel it, it's heavy. An example of this will be like, so something with my mother was coming up, right? There's always a tension there. It always comes back at some point. It's something that it can't really be resolved collectively. And it's something that'll come up every blue moon. And I was like, okay, it's time to sit with this. I'm already consciously aware of what the problem is. I'm already consciously aware of what the tension is. But sometimes it does still bring up emotional resonance in me that is yucky. I don't like it. Anger, frustration,
Part of being
irritation,
human.
disappointment, right? All of those things, that they are a part of having a relationship with my mother. That's just what it is. And so often I've learned I can be with it for a minute, but then there comes a point where I'm like, okay, we gotta do another release because now it's getting heavy, and now I'm about ready to let me release this. Let me get this over with. So I'm able to literally sit and I'm like, do you need to cry? I ask myself, do you need to cry? Do you need to scream? What is it? What needs to come out of you in order to release this? I also take an objective look at the situation in reality, and I operate from a space of solutions. Is there something that you can also do? So beyond feeling and processing it on an emotional level, is there something that you can personally do to adjust the situation so you don't have to keep repetitively feeling this feeling? How can you alleviate the problem? How can you minimize the problem? How far do you want to take it in minimizing the problem? Do you want to completely cut her off? Do you want to just adjust the type of communication and access that you have with one another? So I'm processing on a proactive level of what are we going to do next, also feeling it. And if I need to cry, I'm like, okay, now we cry. And I will just sit there until the tears start to roll up. And sometimes it's a ball, snot nose. If it's something deep, I don't get there like that with this situation anymore. But there were levels to it. So in the beginning of this process and working through this contract that I have with my mother, there were times where I would schedule deep belly, snot nose cries. And now it's more like a tear might drop. I'm like, oh, there's not much to release now this time because I figured it out on a conscious level where I'm not as impacted and inflicted by the chaos that exists within that relationship.
I want you to know that I love that. And you really have, it's like you have a sense of a true sense of awareness of what's going on, and you just know what needs to be done, right? Now, when you were talking, what came to me is sort of, I'm sort of realizing this now. I'm like, as a woman, she's so balanced in like the logical part.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I realized that the the struggle to, as a man, oh, I need to be balanced in my femininity because for so long I was so hyper masculine, and maybe for a long time you were really emotional. But it seems like the trick is you don't even have to like go on this path of, okay, as a man I need to be more emotional, I need to be more feminine, so let me figure out how to do this, da, 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 da. It seems like once you get into awareness, it just happens.
You know what's honest? So you say I may have been emotional. I the foundation of my understanding is actually logic. And so emotions, I grew up in an emotionless household. I didn't even know what emotions were. So I was very numb and shut off to emotions. I lived in a state of neutrality. Like it was my emotions were so suppressed. And so I survived based off of logic, analysis, and trying to understand my reality, because growing up, things weren't what they said. Things were not as they appeared. And so I couldn't use emotions to figure that out, to solve that, because I was feeling one way, but it wasn't in alignment. So I actually led with logic. And something that I always say, I'm logic and reason meets heart and soul. Mind heart connector. I have the ability to do both. And so even the reason why I pursued psychology, I pursued emotional intelligence, the emotional body, that came from a space. I had to educate myself into my emotional body, because I felt things deeply, but I had no like conscious understanding of what was going on. It was just I was very in my head, super in my head, always like that's why I'm so fucking observational and like analytical. I said I have a fucking computer. I'm always running like simulations in my mind of like what could be if I do this, what will happen? If I do A plus B, what will that compute to? So the emotional aspect actually came later in the game for me.
And I know a lot of women that can probably relate to you. I'm sure, because they were also caught up in their emotions. But either way, the point I was making is that there was some sort of imbalance,
Yeah,
whatever, however you spin it.
yeah,
And it seems like the the solution to that is awareness.
awareness.
Now, there is like there's a pathway to get to awareness, but what we're trying to do here, my whole mission with Of Earth is I'm trying to it's actually the forward in What Is I, right? And it's why we wrote the book. I co-wrote this book with someone named Atlas. Shout out to Atlas. And his reasoning was he wants to distill what I sought to help my other selves, right? Well, I my reasoning as to why I wrote this book and why I do what I do is so people like me, and I was speaking about melanated, never have to go through the agony of just being nothing. What I'm saying is, I'm trying to do this. I went through the fire. I'm taking the path. My homeboy Kyle always calls me the guinea pig. I'll be the guinea pig. I gave my life and my path to God a long time ago.
Yep.
And I said, you know what? Whatever you need me to do, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Where this is a special time in reality where we're being these guinea pigs so the future people don't have to go through so much. Isn't that why I get burned by the fire and I can tell my son not to touch the stove?
Fire.
That's the whole point. So in this same respect, it's like I'm going to go through the depths of the darkness, hoping that not that you won't experience darkness, but you'll be able to just walk through it with sandals on. That's it. It's not about you not experiencing these things. You will always, as long as Polaris is up there, there will be an opposite.
Yeah.
But we're going through this shit literally, and then we went through this shit, and now we're speaking about it on the video. Yeah. And now you can watch this video over and over and over again, still go through the whatever you got to go through, but maybe you won't go through as much. Yeah, that is the whole point.
You don't have to suffer through it.
No, like, you don't.
A lot of the path is unavoidable. There's a lot of things that, regardless of how we position it, how much we tell you, it's your path that you have to walk through. But with enough information, with enough awareness, with enough guidance, you won't have to suffer.
I have a quote.
That has always been my goal. I suffered through this, but there's a way to go through the path without the suffering. And so that's why I exist. That's why I show up in this space. That's why I created Sacred Conversations, to be able to highlight a lot of reality that goes unspoken of from a fifth dimensional lens, from a lens of understanding. Also why I have a 21-day journaling program. It's journaling, meditation. There's a lot of different things that are associated with it, called Rewrite Your Narrative, but it comes from the space of I. It's not me telling you who you are. I guide you through a path so that you can tell yourself who you are, with parameters that help you to do that from point A to point Z in a way that makes sense. Because for me, the thing that made it so difficult and made it take so long, and it was so excruciating, and it was just a hot ass mess, is I had to go like this. I had to go in fucking circles and back and forward and side and left, and jumped off the path completely, jumped back on. I'm like, okay, no, This is the straight and narrow. Straight and narrow path, how you can get from point A to point Z, but you have to get to point A to point Z. I can't get you to point A to point Z, but I can tell you a logical sequence of steps, which if you do this first before you try and do this, it'll make your process a lot smoother. It'll make it a lot easier. If you digest this piece first, you dive into this aspect of self first before trying to dive into this aspect of self, you'll save yourself a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of stress, but you still have to dive into it for yourself.
Absolutely.
And so creating a program that allows for people to walk through that from the space of I versus from this like space. One of my favorite quotes was, teach people how to think, not what to think. And so the program is about teaching you how to be, not what to be.
Absolutely.
And so
I have this quote, and I because you said something, and I don't want to lose it. And it's by Ram Dass. And there's a great book called Be Here Now. And if I see it right now, I'll grab it. Yes, 1 second. It's right here.
If y'all are enjoying this conversation, give us a. People be doing this. I'm working on my live skills. Give me a beyond spirituality in the comments if you are following in with this conversation. Drop that in the comments. Also, why he finds that quote. Follow and join on Discord. I'm still working out exactly how I want to use the Discord platform, but I want to be able to continue these conversations and begin to build community around the narrative. Free access. The link is in my bio. Jump into Discord. Maybe we'll do like a group discussion another day. We can talk about it in the group chat. I don't know. Y'all also let me know how you want to use the space and use the platform, but I really want to create a space of community for us to be able to dive deeper into these concepts beyond just this live. But before I dive into that more, let me let you take it away.
So I'm just bringing up the book, Be Here Now. This is the book. This is what it looks like.
Yes.
And it is by Ram Dass. The quote is, you've got to go through the suffering trip, but you can't be the guy suffering. This is the essence of honestly what we're talking about. You can't be the guy suffering, because who's suffering? So there's a perspective of you being human, and there's a perspective of you being I. Shaded, you came right on time. It's the this and the that which you need, right? You are gonna suffer. Your body, there we go. Your body, your human may suffer, but that's not you.
Yeah.
That's not you. You are not your body. So you don't suffer. And who are you? You are I. And what is I? What is I? What is I? Get the book. Get
I
the
love
book.
it. Yes, book plug. So I do want to, this conversation has been so dynamic, so powerful. We've been on for a little bit over an hour.
Yeah.
There's so much more. There's so much more.
We can definitely go on forever, for real.
Forever. Yeah. And be on the lookout, y'all, because we're going to be taking this to the next level. We're starting here on IG. And then also in Discord, jump in like I mentioned before and tap in and tune in to the conversation. We got 5 more episodes in this series. If you check out the first post on my bio, you can see the different conversations that are coming up. We're going to talk about like purpose, living in alignment. What the fuck does that mean? We're going to talk about the concept of, we talked about it earlier today and I was going to bring it up, but there's an episode called Bad Mom, being a divine mother. But that duality of, as we begin to shift the narrative of how we raise our kids, that a lot of the perception will be that we're bad parents. Because why are you letting your kids be so fucking free? Why do your kids have so much autonomy? Why are you letting them think for themselves?
Oh my God.
What does that look like?
I'm tuning in.
Oh, that one's going to be fun. I don't know if Sam is still in here, but I'm doing it with my homegirl, Sam. We're going to talk about the grief of conscious evolution, the grief of being conscious, because we also mentioned this earlier, but with every breath, and I was going to bring this up too, with every breath, I die and I'm rebirthed with every breath. with every breath, I die and I am rebirthed. And with death comes grief. And so we're going to talk about bringing on my friend Soko, who is a licensed therapist. And we're going to talk about how grief itself is a portion, a community, not a community. It is a part of the conscious evolution process. How do you navigate grief? How do you make space for grief? How do you navigate through death and life, rebirth constantly? Because we're constantly evolving and changing and all of the above. So get tapped in, stay connected, because we're going to be taking this offline early next year. But for now, we're going to go ahead and have the conversation digitally. But before we go, I do want to open up. Yep, Sam is in here. Whoop, whoop. Someone said, can you show the book again, please? And before we finish up, I'm going to give you an opportunity, Sky, to like give your final thoughts and stuff. But I want to open up the space for conversation, for questions as well. So if anyone has any questions about any of the topics that we have been talking about, whether it's specifically for Sky, it's specifically for me, or you just want to pose to the question openly, maybe it's a question for the audience, maybe you just want to share your thoughts and your insights on